You're not gonna believe what just happened. I walked outside one morning and noticed something strange. The giant water tank I had placed on the side of my property was gone. At first, I thought it had been stolen, but nope. Turns out, the HOA towed it. A asterisk water tank asterisk. Not a junk car, not some random dumpster. An actual emergency water tank that I had set up for wildfire protection. We're talking about a high-risk zone here. Fires have come through our area before, and this was part of a plan I was working on with local volunteers to have extra resources on hand. But apparently, the HOA didn't think that mattered. They never called. No letter, no warning. Just rolled up, took it, and left me wondering what the heck just happened. I tried calling them, voicemail. Drove down to their office, locked up. And now I'm being told I violated some rule while they completely ignored why that tank was there in the first place. This wasn't just a personal project either. There were firefighters involved. We had approval from people who actually know what they're doing when it comes to emergencies, but none of that seemed to matter. So, how did a safety measure become a violation overnight? And what happens next might actually surprise you. So here's where things started getting even weirder. A few weeks before the tank vanished, I had actually gone out of my way to let the HOA know what it was for. I sent an email explaining that we were prepping for fire season. I even attached a photo showing how the tank was neatly placed, not blocking any roads or walkways, and definitely not some eyesore. No reply, not even a thanks. We'll review it. Total silence. Thing is, I didn't just drop that tank there on a whim. We'd been working with a few retired fire crew members from the area, folks who've lived through evacuations and know how fast things go bad when the flames hit. The tank was filled and ready to go as a backup water source, not just for us, but for anyone in the neighborhood if it ever came to that. But then boom, gone, just like that. One neighbor said they saw a tow truck early in the morning, but no one really thought twice about it until I started asking around. What's strange is that the HOA never mentioned a removal date, never gave me a warning notice, and now they're acting like it was all part of some routine enforcement. But if this was routine, why does it feel like someone's hiding something? After a few days of getting nowhere with the HOA, I decided to start asking some serious questions. I went door to door, talking to neighbors. Some had no clue anything even happened, while others mentioned they'd noticed HOA board members around the property the day before the tank disappeared. One neighbor told me she overheard a conversation about removing unauthorized equipment before the board inspection, but when I asked her more, she suddenly looked uncomfortable, like she didn't want to be involved. Meanwhile, I kept digging. I pulled up the HOA guidelines. There's a section about temporary structures and visual disruptions, but nothing that clearly bans emergency equipment, especially not something related to wildfire protection. It started to feel like someone either didn't understand what the tank was for or didn't care. And that's when a whole other layer started to show itself. Turns out, the HOA president recently signed off on a landscaping project for the same area where the tank had been sitting. A few residents said they were told it would boost property value by cleaning up what they called clutter zones. Except, the tank wasn't clutter. It was protection, life-saving possibly. So now I'm starting to wonder, was this really just a mistake? Or is there more going on behind the scenes that they're not saying out loud? At this point, things were getting serious. I filed an official complaint with the HOA, and guess what? I got a vague, one-paragraph response saying the tank violated aesthetic regulations and had been removed in accordance with community standards. That's it. No details, no dates, not even acknowledgement of the emails I had sent weeks earlier. And still, no mention of the wildfire emergency plan it was part of. It felt like they were dodging me. So I brought it up at the next HOA meeting. Sat there, face to face with the board, laid out everything, photos, emails, even a letter from one of the firefighters I'd been working with. You could feel the tension in the room. A few board members looked genuinely surprised, Like this was the first they were hearing about any emergency plan. But the HOA president, stone-faced, barely reacted, just repeated, the tank was not approved. That's when someone else in the room, someone I didn't even know, stood up and said, "Why are we removing things that could actually help save homes?" The room went quiet. It was one of those moments where everyone realized this wasn't just about some rule in a handbook. This was bigger. And then, after the meeting, I got an anonymous note left on my doorstep. No name, just 6 words. Asterisk, you're not supposed to know everything. Asterisk. That note shook me. At first, I thought it was a prank, maybe someone trying to mess with me because I spoke up. But the handwriting was unfamiliar, and the way it was folded so precisely, it didn't feel random. It felt deliberate, like someone wanted me to stop digging. Instead, I dug deeper. The next day, I contacted the local fire department again to update them. That's when they dropped a bombshell. One of the battalion chiefs told me they'd never been informed by the HOA about any objections or concerns over the water tank. In fact, they were under the impression that the community had approved the whole plan, which raised a huge red flag, because if the HOA didn't tell them, but claimed they had a process who exactly signed off on removing emergency equipment. That same week, another neighbor reached out. She told me she had seen the removal crew, asterisk, but they weren't a standard tow company, asterisk. She said the truck was unmarked, and the guys acted nervous, like they were in a hurry to get it done before anyone noticed. When she asked what they were doing, one of them told her it was city-ordered, but I already confirmed with the city, asterisk, they had nothing to do with it, asterisk. So now I'm not just dealing with HOA drama. This feels bigger, like someone's trying to cover their tracks, and I'm getting too close. I finally caught a break when I traced the removal back to a private contractor, one that had previously done work for the HOA president's personal property. That's when it all started to click. The unmarked truck, the rushed job, the vague responses. It wasn't some mix-up. It was deliberate. I confronted the HOA board again, this time with everything: the fire department's statement, the city's confirmation, and proof that the contractor had no legal authority to remove anything from my property without proper notice. Under pressure, one of the board members finally admitted that the president had pushed the removal through without a full board vote. He called it urgent and claimed the tank was a liability. But that wasn't the real reason. A neighbor, who used to be close with the HOA president, revealed the twist. There was a developer interested in the open land behind my property. The tank. It was blocking access for a potential survey crew. The president didn't want the deal jeopardized. The board was shocked. Residents were furious. Within a week, the president stepped down. The tank was returned, though damaged, and the HOA is now being reviewed for policy violations. But just when I thought it was over, I got a call. The developer, still interested, and now they want to meet. With asterisk me asterisk. I met with the developer a few days later, mostly out of curiosity. Turns out, they had no idea about the water tank or the fire safety plan. They assumed the HOA had cleared everything the right way. Once I explained what happened, and how the tank was tied to wildfire emergency response, they actually backed off. Said they didn't want to move forward if it meant pushing out safety efforts or upsetting the community. In the end, the whole situation brought the neighborhood closer. People started showing up to HOA meetings, asking questions, getting involved. A few residents even volunteered to help maintain the emergency plan going forward. And the tank, it's been repaired and put back, this time with full approval from both the HOA and the fire department. Looking back, it wasn't just about a water tank. It was about transparency, accountability, and standing up when something doesn't feel right. This experience taught me how easily things can spiral when communication breaks down, and how important it is to ask questions, even when the answers make people uncomfortable. So yeah, the tank's back. The fire plan's stronger than ever. And the best part, the neighborhood's finally working together, for the right reasons.